Good day, folks, and welcome to my video on replacing the defective display screen on an RME UFX first generation sound interface. So I bought this unit on Reverb, and the user said that it was in perfect shape, but when it showed up, um, the display looked like this. Everything else worked, but the display was definitely defective. So I tried a bunch of things, upgrading firmware, downgrading firmware, different drivers, and concluded that it definitely was the display. So I went online and got a price, and I figure it would have cost me about maybe $200 Canadian by the time it got here from Europe. So instead, I decided to try to source one here in Canada, and I was able to do that. I found one at Mauser Electronics, and here's the SKU for it. So yeah, I was able to replace it myself and saved a few bucks. So here's how I did it. So here's a picture of my workbench and some of the tools that I used. Nothing too special, a nice bright light and a good Phillips screwdriver and a way to unplug the little ribbon cables very carefully, not damaging them. So I started by removing the two rack ears on each side, and then I took off the volume knobs or the encoder knobs. There was three of them, as you can see here. So here's a view from the back side. So that board right there with the big ribbon cable is the one we want to remove. So this here is showing how we're going to remove the front part of the unit. So there's three screws on each side holding the front plate to the main chassis. And here are the two screws holding the XLR jacks to the front plate. So we need to remove all those. So this is a picture of the main AC lines feeding the on-off switch, the red connector with the dot there. So unplug those, obviously making sure that there's no power plugged into the unit in the back before you start. So here we see the front panel separated from the main chassis. You may have to play around with it a little bit on that first XLR connection. Like it's a bit of a tight fit there, but you can squeeze it out. Now these little ribbon cables are very fragile, so you got to make sure you pull back on that plastic retainer and pull those out very gently. So here we have the front panel completely separate from the back chassis, which is what we need. And that blue circuit board on the lower right is where the display is. So we take out the 5 Phillips screws and we're able to remove that little blue circuit board. One thing to be careful of or to note is those plastic buttons that are right beside the LCD window. They're, as soon as you pull that little circuit board out, those little plastic buttons could go flying, so you'll have to set them back in before you reinsert the board later on when we put it back together. So here's a picture of the defective display removed from that little blue circuit board via that ribbon cable. Here's a picture of the new one on the right, making sure they're exactly the same part number here. So here we see the little paper peel off exposing the glue that we're going to use to stick the foam from the original LCD back onto the new one, as you can see here. And here I'm showing how the ribbon cable is bent to shape in the original versus the new one that's quite stiff and straight. So here's the new display inserted into the connector, and you can see that I hadn't slid the retaining clip in yet, so that's what I did next. So here it is in position, but as you can see, it's kind of sticking up because of the ribbon cable is not bent properly. Now in this pic, I'm trying to show how I used the screwdriver to push the LCD display a little bit so that it would slide directly into the molded aluminum slot in the front panel. And now after turning the front plate over, I seen that the display was sitting nice and flush inside the pocket. So everything looked proper. And also one thing to notice is those little plastic buttons on the left side of the display were all in proper position and were functional. I was able to click them in and out, so nothing was sticking. This is a view of the little blue circuit board back in place. And this is a view of the tight spot that I had mentioned earlier between the XLR connector on the left and that little blue circuit board that's part of the aluminum front plate. So this is where you have to pay attention when you're reassembling both pieces together. It is a tight fit. I had to take a screwdriver and just kind of lightly wedge in between the two, and then it slid right in place. And here's a little video of the final results. So we turn it on, and look at that. A properly functioning display with a little bit of contrast versus what we had before. So yeah, folks, it's not that hard of a job. Just take your time and good luck.